Hello everyone, so let's go ahead and get started. This section is going to cover the album. I'm going to give you the measurements for the album cover itself, and then I'll give you some measurements and show you the template for the pages. For the cover, you're going to need two pieces of chipboard that are 5¼ by 7¼ and then for the spine on the cover, you'll need a piece that is 2 inches by 7¼ Of course, you can adjust these based on the album size you want to create. Here is a template that I was making for the page inserts. There's going to be 3 pages that fold out in this album, as you saw in the review. Each page is 7¼ by 9½, and you're going to score vertically at 5 inches, and that's going to give you a 4½ inch section that's going to be folded over. For the page pocket, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that is 2½ by 7¾ and you're going to score a 1/4 inch on 3 sides, the 2 sides and the bottom, and that's going to form your pocket that's going to go over that binding part that you adhered the page to. So your binding part here, and that's going to sit right there, and that's going to be your pocket. Now I made mine the width of 2½ because I used an edge die or edge punch, so that reduced a little bit of the pocket depth. So if you want to make yours more narrow, you can. If you want to make it more wider, you can. So you're going to make 3 of these foldable fold-out pages, and then the other thing you're going to do is cut a 5 by 7 piece of either the designer paper of your choice or cardstock, and you're going to score it at 1/2 because that's going to give you that flip out. So that's how that goes. And then you also want to go ahead and miter in your flap. I don't know if you can see that, but I cut it at an angle. That way when you put your designer paper or your solid cardstock on this side, you won't see the edges of that flap that we folded down. So you're going to go ahead and make 3 of those. So I have already gone ahead and started adding score tape onto my covers, the back and the spine and the front. And then I have also went ahead and prepped the cardstock, solid cardstock that I'm going to use for the cover. And I'm going to need to marry these 2 pieces together because when you lay out the chipboard pieces for your cover, it's going to be wider than, the 8½ by 11 paper that you're going to use. And so the way I marry these 2 together is I take some score tape and I apply it on both sides, short sides, and then what we're going to do is take the adhesive off, and we're just going to lay it down one beside the other, trying to be as straight as possible, and then we're going to go ahead and burnish that. So let me go ahead and do that right now. I'm just going to pull that score tape off of both sides of my cardstock, and sometimes it helps if you line it up on your mat. If you have one of these mats or a grid paper or a grid mat or some kind, if you line it up with the lines, then you'll be able to go as straight as possible. And I know I'm using a lighter cardstock here, so it's probably hard to see, but you just want to marry those 2 together so you're nice and straight. And as you can see from my lines up here at the top, I'm pretty straight on. And then you want to just go ahead and adhere that down really good with your bone folder so that it makes really good contact there. And once you get the one side down, burnish as well. We'll turn it over and burnish it again. Then you're able to have the rest of your pieces for your cover straight. The other thing I do is I make myself a little kind of like a template jig or whatever based on the width of the chipboard that I'm using. So it's 2 times the width, and that way your paper's not going to crack. So I use that to measure up in between the spine. Let me get the spine. In between the spine and the cover, and that way I know when I fold up the cover I'm not going to get any paper cracking. So let me go ahead and remove the tape backing on the spine, and then I'll be able to line it up. So you just hold it up against the cover piece, and then using the reference line that you scored, making sure your top and bottom are lined up. You just want to, and I like to slide it, the template down, just to make sure my width is accurate on the top and the bottom. Okay, and then we're just going to burnish that down a little bit too. And we're going to repeat on the other cover half. We're going to just add some glue in that middle section there. And then I can remove my tape. And then I'm going to take my little jig here and lay that up against that spine. Use my reference line at the bottom that I scored, making sure I am straight on the top and bottom. I just do it a couple of times just to make sure. Okay, so then I do have extra here that I am going to cut off. You don't need all of that, so I'm just going to line up the edge of the chipboard to the 1/2 inch line so that I'm matching on all the sides, and then I'm just going to cut that off. And since this is actually longer, let me see if I can do it on this one here too, so that, you know, if you want to be perfect, you can just run your tape, your cutter, and then trim where your cutter didn't get it all the way. And there, it's fairly even all the way around. The other thing I like to do is just take and run my bone folder around the edges. It just makes it easier when you go to fold it over to apply your roll your edges over. And then you're going to use some adhesive of your choice. And this is me. I really don't mind going over because you're going to cut this at an angle. The corners, so you can fold your corners over, your corner pieces. It's up to you how you want to do it. I actually do it very differently on almost all my albums, but this is basic. I apply my adhesive on the edges of the paper here. This is what I'm doing all the way around. You really don't want your covers lifting, so you want to make sure you have enough. And then adhesive on your, and then I go in and I apply adhesive to the chipboard itself. all the way around. I probably overdo it on this part, but when I first started out making album covers, the paper kept lifting and it's like, whoa. So you can skip this part, or you can do it however you want to. This is just what's always worked for me. Okay, and so then I'm just gonna burnish everything down nice and smooth. Make sure that my tape is stuck to that paper really well. Okay, so for angling the corners, I eyeball it every time, and it's about 1/8 of an inch that you want to be from the corner of the cover. There are tools that you don't even have to do the guesswork. You can use a tool to do that. I start at the bottom and the top, and then I'll do the side. So I take off this tape backing from the bottom. Oops, that wasn't a good idea. Where's my little knife? Here it is. See if I can get that up again without. I don't think that's gonna come off. Huh. Okay, here we go. Let's try this end. There we go. That one wasn't cooperating, and then you're gonna fold back, and then you're gonna roll up. And of course you're going to burnish down. We're going to do a lot of burnishing here. Going to do the same for this side. Hopefully I'll be able to get that score tape up more cleaner than the other side. Okay, yeah, there you go. I should have used that blade the first time I did it. And then you're going to roll that up, and you're going to burnish that down really well. And then you're going to do the side. And hopefully I didn't cut this too short. So the next thing I do is I just take the edge of my bone folder and I just fold in that little tiny bit up here, just that little tiny bit, and then I roll it, trying to be as tight as possible because you want to be clean here. And if you cut it too short, you're gonna see a little bit of that chipboard, and that's what you don't want. So I start with the corners first, bringing those in, and then you get a nice crisp edge there. So let's go ahead and do this one too. I hope I didn't cut this one edge too short. Might be just barely safe. Okay, and then we're going to bring that over on that corner, and then yeah, this one is going to be very, very tight. Sometimes you can get the paper to cooperate. There you go. By pushing it in a little bit. Okay, it's got a little wiggle room here. And we're going to be covering this album up anyway on the inside. So the main thing you want to do is go ahead and get your cover paper on. So once you have your cover paper on, you want to just take and gently lift up the sides so that you're training the paper. Okay, and there we have our album covered, and then we also don't have that seam on the sides here. Okay.